You know what breaks my heart? Watching someone waste their gifts, watching potential gather dust. I once knew a boy like that. His name was Ryan, and before you think this is just another feel-good story about laziness, let me tell you, this one's different. Because Ryan taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes the people we underestimate the most are the ones who surprise us when the world demands it. So settle in close. Pour yourself something warm. Because what happened in that little village on the edge of nowhere changed everything I thought I knew about strength, about cleverness, and about what it really means to wake up. The sun rose slow over Ryan's village like it always did, golden and patient. But Ryan was neither of those things. Well, he was patient, I suppose, in his own way, patient enough to avoid work whenever he could. He lived with his parents in a cottage that leaned slightly to the left, with a garden out back and fields that stretched toward the mountains. His father was a good man, weathered hands, kind eyes, the type of man who believed in hard work the way some people believe in prayer. Every morning, Ryan's father would wake before dawn, kiss his wife on the forehead and head out to the rice fields. And Ryan's job was simple. Keep the birds away, that's it. Just chase off the crows and sparrows that came swooping down to steal their harvest. Most boys used sticks. Some used slingshots. A few even ran through the fields, waving their arms like wild scarecrows. But not Ryan. No, Ryan had a better idea, or at least a lazier one. He built tall wooden poles at different corners of the field. Then he strung ropes between them, all connected to one spot where he could sit. All he had to do was pull the ropes and the poles would shake, startling the birds away. Clever, right? And it worked. Ryan could lie back in the shade, maybe even doze off and still do his job. His father would walk by sometimes, shaking his head, a small smile tugging at his lips. He was proud in a way, but also worried, deeply worried. Because late at night when Ryan was asleep, his father would sit by the window and wonder, what happens if I'm not here? What happens if I get sick? Will my boy know how to survive? And then, like a prophecy no one asked for, it happened. Summer came that year like a hammer. The sky turned hard and blue, not a cloud in sight. The river shrank. The wells ran low. And Ryan's father, who had worked those fields for 30 years without complaint, collapsed one afternoon in the heat. Fever took him fast. He couldn't stand, couldn't work. And suddenly, the weight of the entire farm fell onto Ryan's shoulders. At first, Ryan tried. He really did. He woke up early. He hauled water from the distant well. He tried to tend the crops the way his father had shown him 100 times. But he wasn't strong enough, wasn't fast enough. And worse, he wasn't ready. The rice began to wither. The soil cracked like old skin. And Ryan stood there, helpless, watching everything his family had worked for start to die. One night he couldn't take it anymore. He walked outside, away from the house, away from his mother's quiet crying, and sat beneath the stars. The sky was endless above him, cold and indifferent. And for the first time in his life, Ryan felt small, truly small. He whispered into the darkness, voice breaking, "Why didn't I try harder? Why didn't I care when it mattered? Now they're going to lose everything. Because of me." And in that moment, something inside him cracked open, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet breaking like the first crack in ice before the thaw. The next morning, Ryan heard shouting in the village square. He dragged himself there, hollow-eyed and exhausted. A soldier stood on a wooden platform, armor gleaming in the sun, holding a scroll. His voice boomed across the crowd. "Hear ye! The king has declared a grand competition. Any man brave enough to compete may win a chest of gold enough to feed a family for 10 years. The challenge begins in 3 days at the royal palace." Ryan's heart skipped. Gold. Enough to save the farm. Enough to pay for medicine. Enough to undo his mistakes. Without thinking, he stepped forward and shouted, "I'll go." The crowd went silent. Then laughter, loud, cruel laughter. Old men chuckled. Children pointed. Even the soldier smirked. "You, the boy who lies in the shade all day, you think you can compete against warriors and athletes." But Ryan didn't flinch. He looked the soldier straight in the eye and said, "I have to." His mother begged him not to go. His father, weak and feverish, whispered, "Be careful, son." But Ryan left anyway, not because he was confident, not because he was brave, but because he had no other choice. And sometimes that's the only reason we need. 3 days later, Ryan arrived at the palace. His legs ached, his stomach growled, but he was there. And so were dozens of others, big men, strong men, men with muscles like boulders and eyes like steel. Ryan looked down at his own thin arms and felt his stomach drop. The first challenge was announced. Cross the lake. The first 3 to reach the other side move forward. A massive lake stretched before them, dark and cold. The crowd counted down. 3, 2, 1. Go! Bodies hit the water like thunder. Men dove in, swimming hard and fast, but Ryan stood frozen on the shore. He couldn't outswim them, he knew that. Panic clawed at his chest. Then something his father once said echoed in his mind. "Work smarter, boy, not harder." Ryan turned and ran into the forest, heart pounding, hands shaking. He grabbed fallen branches, twisted vines, anything he could find. And he built, fast, messy, desperate, a raft, not pretty, not perfect, but it floated. He shoved it into the water and started paddling, using a broken plank as an oar. The swimmers were halfway across now, but they were slowing, tiring. Ryan paddled, arms burning, lungs screaming, and slowly, impossibly, he started catching up. One by one, he passed the exhausted swimmers. By the time he reached the shore, he was third, soaked, shaking, but alive. The crowd erupted, not in mockery this time, in shock. The final challenge came the next day. 3 contestants remained. Ryan, a blacksmith with arms like tree trunks, and a soldier tall and grim. They were each given a massive wooden block and a simple task: push it 1 kilometer to the finish line. Behind them was a table covered in tools, ropes, levers, hammers. They could choose one. The blacksmith grabbed a rope and started dragging his block. The soldier took a lever, prying his block forward inch by inch. But Ryan stood still, thinking, his mind racing. "I can't beat them with strength. I'll never make it." Then his eyes landed on a small carving knife, and an idea sparked. While the others grunted and strained, Ryan knelt down and started carving. The crowd murmured, "What is he doing?" People whispered, some laughed, but Ryan didn't stop. He carved and carved, shaping the block, rounding the edges, smoothing the surface. An hour passed. His hands were raw, but finally he stepped back. The block was now a ball, imperfect but round enough to roll. Ryan placed both hands on it and pushed. It rolled, smooth, fast. He ran alongside it, guiding it down the path. The blacksmith looked back and froze. The soldier's eyes widened. Ryan was gaining on them. And with one final shove, he crossed the finish line first. Ryan returned home a hero, not because he was the strongest, not because he was the fastest, but because when everything was on the line, he found a way. He saved his family. He saved the farm. And more than that, he saved himself. So here's what I learned from Ryan. Laziness isn't the enemy. Fear is. Comfort is. But when you find something worth fighting for, something that makes your heart ache and your hands shake, you'll discover strength you never knew you had. Maybe you're like Ryan. Maybe you've been coasting, hiding, avoiding the hard stuff. But I promise you this, when the moment comes, and it will come, you'll be ready. You just have to care enough to try. And that, my friend, is how a lazy boy became a legend.